Welcome back to the Roadside Rescue YouTube channel. Welcome back to the Roadside Rescue YouTube channel. I'm Ernest, and today we've got a two for one job. There's a gentleman who I've worked on his truck before. It was in a pretty popular video. He has a ground cable from his battery that's completely corroded out. For some reason, it's like all the sheath around the wires is like cut all the way down. He said there's a lot of corrosion and he can't get it to start without wiggling it, you know, just right. So we're gonna replace that ground strap, that ground cable, and replace his terminals on both the positive and negative, which that ground cable probably has one on it. It's going to come with one, and then we're going to do brakes on his brother's vehicle at the same location. So we'll head over there. It should be a good job this morning, and it's starting to warm up. It's going to be a nice day, so we'll head over there and get it done. All right, so we just got here. Here's this Honda Pilot. We're gonna do brakes on this first. I've got rotors and pads, so we'll see if they don't absolutely need rotors. I don't think they want to put them on. So we'll check them out when we get under there, and we'll grab some tools. I've got it jacked up safely with the jack stand. I'll do this grass side first. Again, I don't mind working in the road, especially in like super calm neighborhoods like this is where I typically work in the actual road. So we're here now, and we'll get this fixed. All right, so we just got these lug nuts loose. Get that tire out of the way there. Yeah. As far as these rotors go, kind of rusty, so they probably should be replaced. I'm assuming with the sticker on the back of this car that it was purchased recently, and it probably sat for a while wherever it was purchased from. So that's probably where most of this rust is coming from. I'll talk to him about it. As you can see, yeah, it's pretty fresh stuff, so I'll show it to him and see if he wants to replace it. I'll recommend that it's probably replaced, so we'll see what they want to do. All right, so good news, they do want to replace those rotors. That's great, and yeah, shouldn't be too big of a deal. We'll pop this caliper off and replace the pads and replace the rotor. So on these calipers, I'm going to take the bottom bolt off. Since I've mentioned it before, a lot of the vehicles nowadays have pretty short brake lines to keep from having to undo other parts of the brake line, like up here. If you want to do it from the bottom and fold it upwards, then that gives you enough room. If you try and fold it down, it won't open all the way since those brake lines are so short nowadays. So let's see if we do that. Get it past that rust. And just like that. So all in all, they're not in terrible shape. I'm going to go ahead and compress this caliper while I'm here and remember it. This tool is probably one of the most asked about. It's in the description down below, called brake caliper tool or something like that, I believe. So we just push that back. I'm not bleeding the brakes or anything, so I'm not worried about opening that up. People often ask, aren't you not supposed to push fluid back through there? I don't typically do that, so. All right, luckily I can get my impact back there. So we'll remove these bolts for the caliper bracket. And we'll get this cleaned up as well. Get the old pads out, the hardware. And we'll smack this rotor off. It's missing its screws. Luckily it wasn't seized on there at all. Luckily this is Utah and there's not much rust. That's the easiest way to clean them ever. You don't have to put them on the ground and worry about touching them again. Just go on like that. And now this caliper bracket's ready to go back on. We'll start them by hand. All right, we'll put the new hardware on. And the new pads, and put them back together. And then just don't forget to pump the brakes before you leave. If it has a wear indicator, I like to put it in the back since it's harder to see the pads in the back. That way if something's going on back there, you'll know about it. And then people often ask, like, would I not grease these? Sometimes I do, but typically if they don't get grease from the factory, then I kind of like to stick with that factory standard. So we'll put grease on these pins. Obviously they get it. I'll go grab my silicone paste. Right, you don't have to go overboard on the silicone or whatever lubricant you're using. I like silicone. Just get it nice and coated there. Bingo. That's ready to go back together. And that's the easiest way to do those brakes, even by not having to hang the caliper, by setting it on top. So pretty much streamlined this process. Do it how you like, but if you want to know, in my opinion, that is the easiest way to do it. It's been about 10 minutes and we're done on this side. It should be a little bit faster on the other side. Right, we've got those wheels torqued down and we'll hop over to the other side and get going over there. All right, I just got this other side jacked up. We'll get it going. Okay, those are just a little swollen, those lug nuts, but they aren't two-piece, so I'm not too worried about it. I also like to look everything over while I'm under here. For example, those bushings on the lower control arm are really dry rotted. Everything else looks okay though, except for the boots around the tie rod and butt. Probably just sat for a while based off all that rust and everything. All right, put that wheel back on and get it torqued down. So typically you wouldn't ever start lug nuts with your impact. This one's electric, so it's not impacting right off the bat. It actually works like a drill until it feels resistance. So I start them with this, but if you have a traditional air impact, you should not start lug nuts with it. I mean, it's always a good idea to start them by hand anyways, but this one's pretty touchy, so I'm not too worried about it. Like that. Just like that. It doesn't start cranking them down. It was cross-threaded on the beginning of that one, and all I had to do was stop and straighten it up. Okay, we'll set her down and torque her down. Okay, we'll double check the torque on the other side since I didn't do that yet. Okay, that'll do it. We'll pack up and then we'll do that ground cable on that other vehicle. We'll pump the brakes before we drive off. Here, I'll do it right now before I'm completely done. I'll just do it right now. Let's see, that was 8 minutes total, but I'll probably cut out a few seconds where you can't see anything. Yeah, cool. I just reached in. I didn't think it would go off if I open it from inside, but I just pumped the brakes, so this is good to go. Yep. All right, here we are. We got this F150 here. If you recognize it, good for you. I won't say which video it's from, but we're gonna fix this battery cable. Here's what I was talking about. This was completely just like shredded. So we're gonna replace this ground cable here. I got a few different links, and yeah, we'll replace that, and we'll replace this terminal as well and get everything cleaned up and greased up so it works well. Let's see if that's an okay angle. That looks good. I don't know. Here's the thing. Everybody's been saying you're supposed to take one or the other off first. I've always heard you're supposed to take the positive off first because hydrogen builds up in these batteries and it's positively charged, so it moves to the negative side. So if you take the negative off first and you cause a spark, you risk an explosion. Everybody else says take the positive off first because, or the negative off first because it's grounded. So if you touch the positive, to the ground while you're taking it off, then you'll short it out, which I'm more worried of an explosion than a short. So I'm going to keep taking the positive off first. And hey, here's the deal. I'm not going to touch the ground. So the battery's all plastic. All I've got to do is loosen it up like this. Bingo. That's done. No sparks. And if there's a spark on this side, there's no hydrogen over here. Okay, there we go. I'm going to put that back on. Actually, so I can take the terminal itself off, which was just a little step I missed. Okay, here's this tool everybody's always curious about. It's just better than those traditional cleaners, battery cleaners. It just doesn't wear out. Links in the description for this battery cleaner tool. And it just uses that flat blade to scrape off a clean layer. Like so. Got some electric parts cleaner. Spray that on and let it dry. I always keep some extra rags in my pocket, so we'll clean this up here. Put that back on. Same thing over here. I'm going to loosen up. This terminal, and we're going to be replacing technically the whole ground wire, so this may not be super necessary, but that. And then this is the main ground strap we're gonna disconnect. And I'll probably replace it with this one and crimp this ground strap to the firewall into this extra one here. I've got a few different cables, one without this because I wasn't sure, even though I could probably just connect it up to the terminal, but I'm not worried about that. We'll get this ground strap out of the way, figure out where it runs to, and disconnect it. All right, so I got the ground cable disconnected down there to the engine. Connects right down by the starter, and I'll go ahead and put this on and thread it down there. I'm not too worried about completely removing the old one. I just cut it since now it has no purpose. There's no need to worry about it. Put that on and tighten it down. Just needs to be tight enough not to move freely. So that'll do just fine there. Then I'm going to clean this up. I'll probably just cut this old end off. Like that. Let's see if I can do this without grabbing my wire strippers up in the truck. There we go. Yeah, you can see a bit of corrosion that was hiding right there. We'll clean that up. Some electrical parts cleaner. Spread it out a little. Use a rag. That off, and then we'll just connect these two together with this connector here that's been provided. All right, that's tight. And we'll clean up this. We'll put the ground on down there, and then we'll come up here, clean up the positive, and get it connected. I'll show you what we're dealing with down here. This is where the ground connected right behind the starter here, if you can see that. So we'll get the new cable down here and get it connected right to there. All right, there we go. I've got that ground strap connected again, and I've also reconnected the old one because there's an additional ground going to that. So both are on there now, and it should be good to start once we get that positive terminal connected up there. All right, we got her running here. Everything's hooked up well. Here's what it looks like, finished project. It's a job well done. All right, that's a job well done. We got it back up and running, nothing too crazy to see, but yeah, that ground's all connected good now and clean. Shouldn't cause them any issues for probably the rest of the life of that vehicle. And it's probably on the later end of its life. It's pretty old and beat up. But that's it. That'll do it for today. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to help the channel out. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks again. We'll see you on the next episode.